Bonsoir, mes amis. I hope you're having a very good Tuesday. I, on the other hand, am having a hot Tuesday, as you can imagine. We are, I don't know, there's a lot happening. There's a lot happening. A lot of changes, as usual. Many changes that we are making. So, all of my people, welcome. New people, welcome. Also, OG people, welcome. It's nice to have everyone here. Today, our topic, bridges and men. Bridges and men. Have you driven driven on a bridge or a very wide span body of water, usually a bay, or I would like to say, ooh, if you know the word I'm thinking of, put it down below. Rivers, bays, you get the idea. Large body of water, and we're trying to cross from point A to point B. Have you ever been on a bridge and you thought, how? How did they do it? How did they get concrete? How did they get concrete in the water and they get it to dry up and hold these really cool bridges, but it's in the water? How did they do it? That's a question for today, and that is what I'm trying to look into, find out, get more into, because I'm a curious person. And if you're here, you're probably a curious person just like me. So that's the question for today. And we're going to explore. We're going to have fun. We're going to get into it and see how do these men do it. The sacrifice, the hard work, everything that these guys have to do to bring us, well, everything that we have. Bridges, cars, ease of movement, getting from point A to point B, medicine, everything, all the hard work that these men do on a regular basis. So this channel, live stream, what we really are trying to do here is talk about the awesome things that men, primarily men, did for our society, and how we probably don't really think about bridges anymore because it's been instituted and it's something that works well. So, you don't think about it when it's working well. You're not supposed to think about all these things that society does so well, that men have done so well. When they are working, you don't think about how valuable they are and how hard these men had to work. Like, legit. But with everything that's going on around the world, with everything that I see that is so difficult to go through all the time, this channel is kind of like a reprieve to be like, hey, look how far we've come, look what we've done, and not everything is perfect, but the world that men have created, especially North American men or men of the West, and how all these cool things that we have basically liberated women. Made our lives so much easier. That's my little spiel. That's my little spiel on appreciating what men do and taking notice and saying, thank you, by the way, for doing all this hard work. Thank you for making my life easier. And also, this is a platform to discuss and talk about all these cool things. So it's a 2-in-1. That's really the goal. And all my ladies, I enjoy talking about this topic. It's also for the ladies. If you enjoy talking about this topic, welcome. Let's have fun together. But I'm going to be honest with you. This is kind of made for my guys. It kind of is, to highlight what they do, the unsung heroes. Without much further ado, I know I've been talking a bit. Let's get into some video clips just to start off fun, light, enjoyable, and we're going to get going and get into the meat and potatoes. Of course, we're going to be hitting the pace quickly as usual, but everything, is structured. It's changing. It's morphing. We are new. So we're finding out what works, which means that things are going to be changing a little bit at a time while we are going on. And today, we're going to cover the material and then we're going to chillax and talk. That's the goal for today. But let's get this video underway because I want to show you the Romans. I would like to show you the Romans. So let's start with the scenes with 300, okay? Because that movie's epic. You say, how often do you think of the Roman Empire? Ooh, I think men have a thing about that, right? That like the Roman Empire, the guys can think of everything back to the Roman Empire. I'm a bit of a nerd, so for me, very often. Last week, in fact, I was thinking about the Greeks, and you know, the Greeks and the Romans are kind of intertwined. So for me, I'm obsessed with Greek mythology, so in a way, I'm always thinking about the Romans. How about you? How often do you think about the Roman Empire? But let's get this video underway while we chat. You see the picture, but I think maybe you'll want to hear the audio for this one. So let's just pause and hear the audio, and then we'll move on.
Using ancient stones from the bosom of Greece herself, and with a little Spartan help, your Persian scouts supplied the mortar.
You will pay for your barbarism! My arm!
It's not yours anymore. Go now. Run along and tell your Xerxes he faces free men here, not slaves.
No. Not slaves. Your women will be slaves. By noon this day, you will be dead men. 1,000 nations of the Persian Empire descend upon you. Our arrows will blot out the sun.
Then we will fight in the shade.
Anybody remember that iconic scene? Then we will fight in the shade. It's just so awesome. But now you get the next part of this, so I have to show you the next part.
Persian cowards. What the hell are you laughing at?
You had to say it. What? Fight in the shade?
Recover! Today, no Spartan dies.
Wow. Today we will fight in the shade. Yes. The Romans. It's just to show you how crazy these men are. The Romans are crazy. They are legit crazy. But that's why we love them. Honestly, that's why we love the Romans. They are insane. They really are. But the reason why I put on the Romans today is because we're talking about bridges. And one of the first people to truly make roads as we know them today, and bridges even, are the Romans. The Romans have bridges standing from 2,000 years ago. So part of that clip was to show you that, hey, these men are made of very stern stuff. Like, they're born to fight. They play all day, meaning they're just training to fight. All they do is fight. So the strength, the resilience that they brought to their fighting is also the same resilience and strength that they used to make many of the buildings and bridges and roads. And we know of these roads today, and we talk about them how, I mean, even you guys even make fun of them online. I see some memes and they're like, the Romans built these roads like 3,000 years ago, and this is a bridge. This is a road built 6 months ago in America or any other country. I think as far as bridge building goes, America is actually very strong in bridge building. I know. And there's so much to get into on that realm, but we have, of course, all week to talk about it. So let me not talk your ear off too much, and instead, let's get into the reading. Let's see, what are we working with over here? But yeah, you guys, the Romans are insane. Romans are insane, and what person doesn't like a good Roman, you know, story or a good Roman like fighting scene? Like what kind of person doesn't? City of Bridges, Pittsburgh. Yes, yes. Pittsburgh is actually on one of the ones that we're going to talk about. Pittsburgh is known for its bridges. I mean, Three Rivers Stadium, the Pirates Stadium is like very beautiful. It's crazy. So Pittsburgh is in there. Of course, we have the St. Louis Bridge that we're going to go over. And of course, New York is known for its bridges as well. And then we also have California with the arch over there. California is kind of doing well with that particular one. But yeah, we Americans, our forefathers did a great job in giving us these awesome bridges that we have today. But let me get into the reading because I'm so excited to get so much info in here. But of course, we have to keep up the pace and move along and move along. Let's see. There we go. Do, 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 do. Oh my goodness. Alrighty. Now we are set and ready to go. Oh boy. Some of the earliest known bridges are called clapper bridges, which comes from the Latin word claperius, meaning pile of stones. These bridges were built with long, thin slabs of stone. They make a beam-type deck and with large rocks or piles of stones of piers. The Romans began organized bridge building to help their military campaigns. Engineers, skilled workmen forged guilds that were dispatched throughout the empire. And these guilds spread, exchanging building ideas and principles. The Romans also discovered a natural cement called pozzolana, which they used for piers and rivers. Roman bridges are famous for using the circular arch form, which allowed for spans much longer than stone beams, as well as bridges of far more permanence. When several arches were necessary for long bridges, the building of strong piers was critical. This was a problem when the piers could not be built on rock, as in a wide river with a soft bed. To solve this dilemma, the Romans developed the cofferdam, a temporary enclosure made from wooden piles driven into the riverbed to make a sheath, which was often sealed with clay. Concrete was then poured into the water within the ring of piles. Wow, concrete was built into the wall within a ring of piles. That's awesome. So, I have a video for you guys of what I have planned for that. And I'm going to show you what they were talking about when they're saying that they made like kind of like a blockade. And then they went through the process of removing the water from this area and then driving piles of wood into it. And then with that, they would be able to begin the work of the structure underneath. So they're driving poles into the water, into the soft bed until they reach a more concrete foundation or a hard bedrock, if you will. The world's largest steel tube concrete. Let me show you this one over here. So when we were talking about the piles going in, this is just a quick video to show you kind of what that looks like. So that's the inside of it, and that's all the steel, and that's like inside of that part. That was the inside of that, and it was inside of the new temporary enclosure that they would make, which is, of course, the cofferdam. But let me see some other things. This one down here is a quick example of the riverbed of what they're doing underneath. It's not to the extreme that they do for bridges, but this is just a quick example of what that would look like of them driving something down on the bedrock. Okay, so it looks like we're doing steel tubes on top of each other, and there's just movement, then they're placing it onto the ground, on the floor bed. For this example, it looks like they're showing we're just pouring concrete, and then we are pouring stones on top, and then, removing this tube that was put in the ground. And then they are driving in cement, dried cement. So today, cement is very different than what the Romans had. Like, we can, already make tubes, almost like cement tubes, and then put them in. But back then, the Romans really were not. They really didn't have that luxury. So for them, they had to make the hole and then pour in at the same time. I'm sure today they still do it to some degree, but it's just not like they don't always have to do it all the time, because it's the only way that they have of doing it. But let me show you something real quick. Awesome. So we're in reading mode. Okay, let me do this mode. That's better. So we have the false arch up here. We have different types of arches up here. We have the clapper, which we just explained what that is. And then we have the cofferdam in here, which you can see that picture. Let me see if I can get a better picture for you for the cofferdam. But these are the arches, and let's talk about a false arch real quick, and then we're going to get into some more reading. A false arch is built by overlapping bricks laid horizontally and held together by mortar, which stands, but is incapable of withstanding a load. A true arch, on the other hand, will sustain an enormous weight even without any mortar. This over here is a false arch. There really isn't much of a difference in the look of them, but really more like how they're built. We have different types of arches over here. And this one looks cool. This is kind of like the Gothic one when you think about like the Roman church, or you think of a Gothic church. The triangular looks like those ones that I typically see in like forts or military use. They're like pointy. That looks more familiar in that realm. And then we have the semicircular arch, which is the most popular and widely used by the Romans. Cool pictures over here. Look at these things. They've lasted for so long. And then there's this one, of course, over here going, wow, that's just amazing. So the might that these men had when they were fighting, same might that they brought to building these bridges and roads. And also, building these things, soldiers were part of the building process. Of course, some parts of the job, such as going into this hole over here, must have been reserved for, slaves, if you will. That's the way to put it. Because back then, when people fought, it was just whomever lost became slaves. That's just history, is just how it is. And for these ones, particularly for the Roman bridges, when they're building these things, slaves would be doing the most difficult jobs. If you look at this thing here that I told you about, and this is what they built to drive into the riverbed. They put all these piles in here, and we're going to do more research into that, more reading. But all this wood is driven in, And then you have a bunch of men with buckets trying to shovel the water out as soon as it's coming in. And of course, more piles of wood are put in, and then at the same time, you're siphoning out water. Same thing. The Romans built two circles, and then they had an inner circle where they would pour in the concrete, if you will. But this is so cool. Like, learning about this and finding this out was the coolest thing ever. It's I would have never thought. I would have never thought that's what they did. Really, ever. How did the need of bridges arise? Well, we got the wheel. The wheel is revolutionary, just like the bridges. We don't really know exactly when the wheel came about, but the wheel is what gave birth to the necessity of bridges. So we're going to stop that one there in where it's at, and then we are going to do some more reading because we have a lot to get in through, and then we need to talk about some pretty cool topics. We're just going to chillax and have fun, and I want to get into these different topics. I want to talk about these different ideas, like what Cullen had put in. How often do I think about the Roman Empire? Like, pretty often. Pretty often. Think about the Roman Empire. And let's get some more reading and more done. For early man with limited access to materials and means of refining them, bridges had restricted value, primarily utilized for narrow crossings. The invention of the wheel brought dramatic train carts, wagons, roads, and highway merchants. It also brought the problem of river crossing to the forefront. The invention that solved the bridge problem of ancient civilization ranks second only to the wheel itself. How did this marvel come into being? It's kind of like a big mystery, similar to the origin of the wheel. Archaeologists have found that the arch appeared in tombs and underground temples long before it was used in bridges. That exact answer as to who built the first arch is unknown. The oldest surviving stone arch is in Turkey. It dates at least back from the 9th century BC and is said to have been crossed by St. Paul. Stone arches are not necessarily semicircular, though this is the form we usually think of. Early stone arches of the eastern Mediterranean were pointed. Semicircular arches, that is, true arches made with wedge-shaped stones, have been found near Nineveh. All the early Roman bridges are shrouded in the midst of prehistory. What we know for sure is that Roman engineers learned to sink foundations of remarkable size. They left behind bridges that are amazing to gaze upon. To appreciate the Roman achievements, one should first take note of the basic problems involved in bridging a wide, deep river. A surprising factor is the disproportionate amount of effort that must be made under the water prior to actual construction of the bridge. To bridge a river with 5 stone arches, 4 piers must be sunk into the stream. How does one build a pier on a mud surface during the Roman age? First, abutments were built. Then piers and arches were added one by one. The Roman engineers made their piers thicker and broader than necessary. They worked in the summer and fall, letting the incomplete structure stand through winter and spring. Each pier was massive enough to support the equivalent of a whole arch. The longer the arch span, the thicker the pier. A typical size of Roman arches are 50 to 90 feet, and piers range from 18 to 36 feet thick. The arches, surprisingly, are not all the same length. More frequently, the inner spans were longer than the outer. Wow. Abutments. What surprised me most about learning about this is that the arches are not always of the same size. That is crazy surprising to me. And I don't know. I'm so surprised. I am so surprised by that. That they're not the same size. Anybody else would be shocked to find that out too? Like, you would think, if it's said that so much geometry goes into this world and so much math needs to happen, one would think that all the arches would be of equal size, that it would be a necessity. But it's not. These cool bridges from, like, Again, very old Roman style bridges, like surviving. So one of them, like 2,000 years old, it was still standing, which is just amazing. Now, this is the arch we were talking about, the semicircular arch over here. And that kind of looks cool. It really does look cool. But it makes sense to me why, you know, wheels and having wheels and carts being able to move things more quickly, how that would kind of like bring the necessity about of like trying to find a way to get things across a body of water more quickly, or a chasm or a span from, you know, a ledge to another, mountain regions. Think of everything. And then we also have to think of tunnels, which is a different one. But my mind thinks about it these ways, and then I just kind of go into more mode of learning, really. But look at these things. This is so pretty. It's so gorgeous. I am in awe of what these people were able to do back then, 2,000 years ago. This is some depiction, you know, some details of what's happening in here. Just wanted to show you. And then these things over here, again, I want to show you what is happening, but I am not a math girl. I can do math, but I don't enjoy geometry and all that jazz. Like, I can understand it, but I don't prefer it. It's not my fun mode. But these looks like some pretty cool angles. I want to say acute and obtuse. See, I remembered some things from math class. Okay, these just kind of cool pictures I wanted you to see. Roman building, bridges, carpentry, what, you know, some cool pictures of what's happening over here. But there's some bit more reading that I need to get into. So let's continue that. And then I want to open the floor so we can have fun. Ah, oh my goodness. There we go. Alrighty then. We're gonna look inside. We're gonna read a little bit about a Roman engineer and what was expected of a Roman engineer. Marcus Vitruvius Pollio, let me restart that over. There's some background noise for me. Marcus Vitruvius Pollio, a contemporary of Caesar's and Augustus, author of De Architectura, thus summarized the qualities demanded of a Roman architecture. That is, a civil engineer. An architect should be ingenious and apt in the acquisition of knowledge. He should be a good writer, a skillful draughtsman, versed in geometry and optics, expert at figures, acquainted with history, informed on the principle of natural and moral philosophy, somewhat of a musician, not ignorant of the sciences, both of law and physics, nor of the motion laws and relations to each other of the heavenly bodies. Moral philosophy will teach the architect to be above meanness in his dealings and to avoid arrogance. It will make him just, compliant and faithful to his employer, and what is of the highest importance. It will prevent avarice gaining ascendancy over him, for he should not be occupied with the thought of filling his coffers, nor with the desire of grasping everything in the shape of game, but with the gravity of his manners, and a good character should be careful to preserve his dignity. Such was a Roman engineer, perhaps the noblest Roman of them all. That's what they require of Roman engineers. Are you serious? He should be well versed in the sciences of both law and physics. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Philosophy, it's kind of like, okay, all right, philosophy can be utilized in everyday life, you know, to better communicate and, you know, live to a moral, I would say, more higher calling, or do things that are more, you know, kind and giving towards humanity. But the understanding with musician, somewhat of a musician, okay, that's it. All right, that's a bit of a stretch. That's a lot. Really? An architect? Musician? Anybody else baffled by this? Really? I don't know. I don't. What is an architect gonna do with with music? Like, I don't. How is that gonna serve them? But I suppose it falls under the category of they should be knowledgeable and they should be a seeker of knowledge. And being a musician is knowledge. There's a lot going on with that particular one. A lot of knowledge to figure out in that one. But Roman architect, they had to go through a lot. They had to go through a lot, and obviously their genius lives to this day. So they lived up to the standard and they did the work necessary to be that good. Simply just mwah, genius. But what is a bridge? Yeah, we know what a bridge is, but what is a bridge? What is it? What is the meaning? What's the need for it? What purpose does it serve? What is its main purpose? Let's do some videos. Let's see what we're trying to do here with a bridge, and I'm gonna give you something you're not expecting, or maybe you are expecting, but bridges. Let's look at this one. Wow, that sank pretty quickly. That just went down completely wrong. Let's see this one though. Let's see the concrete being poured, because I'm curious. Alright, we've already seen this one. Da, 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 da. The more I learn, the more I realize how little I know. But China apparently is working on building a huge bridge, from what I understand. So let's look at China. I thought it would be cool to see these pictures and see these men work. Like, this is insane. Wow. And the semi-arch that we're talking about. And if we're gonna go back, but that's their goal. Their aim is to do this. It looks like they're trying to do a suspension bridge, honestly. Again, we are very lightly touching on this subject. I am not an expert, my people. We're just having fun talking. But some of them, you were trying to bridge like a body of water. But some of them, it's just a chasm. It's just space. It's just mountains. And you got to get from point A to point B. Let's see that one more time, because it just looks so terrifying. Terrifying and cool. Wow. Oh. Oh my gosh. Okay. Every time I look at things like that, for me, I just get goosebumps. We must have so much faith in these infrastructures, in these bridges. I just showed you one where basically crumbled and these guys like kind of fell down. Luckily, it wasn't too bad. It was just like a straight down. But imagine if a bridge collapsed. Imagine. Like, again, I don't think we really experience it in the United States of bridges crumbling or things going down all the time. But in China, I think in China there's a term where they call it like tofu concrete, meaning that like the way that they mix the cement, the corruption is so bad that the resources used to make the cement is not up to par, because they're not using the right mixture or the ratio, because the money that should be going to that is being siphoned off one way or another. And what you get are bridges that are collapsing all the time, or roads just like you have a sink in them. And the other thing that happens is like the buildings just fall apart. Like I've seen videos online where it's just like buildings falling apart, and it's crazy. But let's talk about the materials that are commonly used in bridges and the function of a bridge, just like we had said. We have common materials utilized over here, and wood, stone, iron, and concrete are the primary materials used. And of these, iron has the greatest effect on modern bridges. From iron, we do steel. Steel is made, and again, we went through Carnegie, so you will know that steel is made from iron. Iron is a mixture of different alloys. You do iron, you add different mixtures of alloys, and that's how you get steel. And then steel is used to make reinforced and pre-stressed concrete. Modern bridges are almost exclusively built with steel and concrete. Wood is relatively weak in both compression and tension, but has almost always been widely available and inexpensive. Wood has been used effectively for small bridges that carry light loads, such as footbridges. Engineers now incorporate laminated wooden beams and arches into some modern bridges. Laminated wooden beams and arches. Laminated, huh? Laminated beams and arches? That's surprising to me, but it makes sense. It makes sense because wood is so widely available. Wood, like, I mean, prior to using concrete and steel, stone was the next best one, like strength-wise, of course, but not the easiest to work with. But wood, widely available, easy, pliable to work with, but all the weather and all the movement, that's going to put a strain on wood, and wood is going to crumble much quicker than other materials that we've talked about. But for the wood, laminating it and utilizing new technology, then you can now bring it back into the use of bridges. I think that's fascinating, and I certainly never knew that. Let's see. We're going to continue reading so I can tell you about bridges. Bridges are structures that span horizontally between supports, whose function is to carry vertical loads. The prototypical bridge is quite simple: two supports holding up a beam. Yet, the engineering problems that must be overcome even in this simple form are inherent in every bridge. The supports must be strong enough to hold the structure up, and the span between supports must be strong enough to carry the loads. Spans are generally made as short as possible. Long spans are justified where good foundations are limited. Generally speaking, bridges can be divided into two categories: standard overpass bridges or unique design bridges over rivers and chasms. This article describes features common to both types, but it concentrates on the unique bridges because of their greater technical, economic, and aesthetic interest. There are 6 basic bridge forms. You have the beam, the truss, the arch, the suspension, and the cantilever, and of course, cable stay. Most commonly used is the beam. It undergoes horizontal compression on the top. At the same time, the bottom of the beam is subjected to horizontal tension. The supports carry the loads from the beam by compression vertically to the foundations. So, we got into bridges a little bit and the different types. Let's go into some more pictures because these look so cool. But real quick, before we move on, let's look at the different types over here. So we have the beam, just 2 poles coming up, very simple. That makes sense. And the truss, wow. That one seems a little scary. It's resting on very little over here. I mean, this structure, or this body, I don't know. This land must be, I'm sure, again, they do their research, they do the math on everything. So it's acting like a beam, and they're just resting the edges on here. And then we have the cantilever. The cantilever is a cool one. The cantilever is used in the St. Louis Bridge, and I'm curious to get into that one. That one we're going to get into tomorrow. More so tomorrow. But the cantilever looks pretty cool. It's like 3D, like a 3D little cool thing. I don't know. I just want to touch it. It just looks fun to touch, like those models or something. And then the arch over here, the arch we have, which is very popular, the Romans, all of it, you've seen it. and the suspension bridge. So suspension looks like these things over here, adding the wires and adding, the hold up. It's like the tension. It's like holding up the ends over here, like it's holding up the ends up top, and plus the load is going down on the beams. But I think the reason why they have suspension is because it could withstand even more loads, especially when it's going over a wider body of water. So for this one, it's shorter. Body of water is not as big, and so it doesn't need the suspension because not many cars, not much of a load will be staying on that because there's just not time, it's not big enough for cars to pile up on it. However, for the suspension bridge, if you can think of like this one, exactly like this suspension bridge, but it would have the tops, it would have the wires connecting and stuff. It makes sense that it would need it to withstand more loads because if you think about it, more cars are going to be going on it, the length is longer, and at times traffic can come to a complete still. These men have to build these bridges in mind of what is the maximum load it could potentially have to withstand. In some cases, they can calculate it, like this small bridge over here, but in other cases, they can't. They estimate and they do, their research, I'm sure. But if you think about trucks that go on top of these things, the very, trucks that they use to move cats, the caterpillar we talked about, these machines that they use to construct the very bridge, they pass on this bridge. So they need to withstand that amount of force. And they need to be able to endure for a period of time as well in the elements and also withstand earthquakes and tsunamis and tornadoes. We here primarily in America, I think we deal with tornadoes and earthquakes in case of California. That's primarily what we do with. Tsunamis, not so much our thing, but I think Japan probably designed their bridges a tad bit different to deal with that, maybe. But very cool to know because I never thought about it. That like, they has to withstand a load as well. And it also has to take the environment into account. That is what mostly gets me here, that the environment has to be taken into account. And I never thought of that. Did anybody ever think of that? And then of course we have the cable stay bridge. Well, we have, straight down, like a triangle coming down, and then again the beams coming up coming from on the top. But these are the 6 most common types of bridges. There are different types, but we do not have the time, and we are not getting an architecture degree, so we're okay. We don't need to know all that. But the cantilever bridge, that uses projecting beams called cantilevers, each of which is supported only at one end to form and underpin the main span. So looks like tension over here on the top and compression over here. Okay. So this here, the cantilever is like holding between these two. It's like anchoring these two. It underpins the main pass. Interesting. So it's within the road here. And then compression. See, we have much more to get into, but you get the idea of what it's doing. So it uses projecting beams called cantilevers, which support only at one end to form or underpin the main span. Support only at one end. Fascinating. Huh. I'm curious to get more into this. But let's move on to concrete. We're not just on top of bridges, but we're also touching on concrete, the materials used, and how they do it, and what men have to endure. We're touching on all those today. Concrete is an artificial stone made from a mixture of water, sand, gravel, and a binder such as cement. It is strong in compression, but it is weak in tension. There are different types of concrete. I know, there are different types of concrete. I didn't think there were different types of concrete, but there are. But let's get some more reading done before we get into the different types of concrete, and then we'll continue moving forward. That's insane. I never knew there were different types of concrete, you guys. The first iron used during the Industrial Revolution was cast iron, which is strong in compression but weak in tension. Wrought iron, on the other hand, is as strong in compression but as cast iron. But it also has much greater tensile strength. Steel is an even further refinement of iron and therefore stronger. It is superior to any iron in both tension and compression. Steel can be made to varying strength, given that some alloys are 5 times stronger than others. Engineers refer to these as high-strength steels. Bridges are designed first to carry their own permanent weight or dead load, second, to carry traffic or live loads, and finally, to resist natural forces such as winds or earthquakes. The primary function of a bridge is to carry traffic loads such as heavy trucks, cars, and trains. Engineers must estimate the traffic loading. On short spans, it is possible that the maximum conceivable load will be achieved, that is to say, on spans of less than 100 feet or 30 meters, 4 heavy trucks may cross at the same time, 2 in each direction. On longer spans of 1,000 meters or more, the maximum conceivable load is such a remote possibility that the cost of designing for it is unreasonable. Therefore, engineers use probable loads as a basis for design. Imagine the Golden Gate Bridge with only heavy trucks crossing bumper to bumper in each direction at the same time. This is what I was talking about in terms of sometimes you don't know what you need to hold, and you just have to estimate and plan for the maximum load possible, or do some calculations and go on a good range of what it is supposed to hold. In general, shorter spans are built with beams, hollow boxes, trusses, arches, and continuous versions of the same, while longer spans use cantilever, cable stay, and suspension forms. As spans get longer, questions of shape, materials, and form become increasingly important. New forms have evolved to provide longer spans with more strength from less material. So depending on what we're trying to get done, it makes a difference of what materials are used. It is basically That's basically how it is for any situation, depending on what you're trying to do. I've always enjoyed it when people ask certain questions, like accounting, for example. People would ask, if I'm doing this, what do I need to do? It depends. It depends what exactly are you trying to do, which is why, some points when we talk about architecture and we talk about building, and how the government has certain outlines for what they think it will cost to build a bridge or to get some new foundation sunk in. And then it ends up being millions over, a great deal money over, and we tend to be like, hey, what's happening? I would say that maybe 15% of that increase is actually real, real problems these people come across. I don't know about the triple or, quadruple the amount of it initially being set out. That sounds a bit far-fetched to me that would be true, other than people having, intentions of just siphoning money off of a project. You know how it goes. A decent amount of that change in the price or what we have to pay is genuinely just unforeseen costs. The sinking process, just to build the foundation. Like we said, there's a lot happening underneath before we even get to the top. So there's so much going on. Sometimes it goes well, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes they need to drill harder than they think they would need to drill. And of course, sometimes we lose men. People die building these bridges, lost lives, especially when it first began, because we didn't have the technology. We didn't know about air pressure sickness, for example. Think of divers. When divers go underground, when they go underwater, how they come back up, how quickly they come back up, makes them impact on the air bubbles that form in their blood. I know. Changing for such depth so quickly will get people sick and then they will die. Later on tomorrow we will talk more about this, but I wanted you to know that like the caissons, the abutment going into that hole is still going to make a difference in the pressure. These men are being lowered like 100 feet down below, surface level in some cases. And before we knew how to properly adjust and how to properly take care of that, how to ascend and descend properly, people got sick and people died quickly. And I never knew that. I never, like, of course, a suspension, the height, you get that. But just being lowered down underneath to pour the concrete, people could die from ascension. I didn't know that. That's crazy. The price that men have to pay for, the advancement of the world. I know we talk about women, we pay the price, we have to give birth to children. And for history, like 23% of women, like, died during childbirth. Prior to having the medicine that we have, yeah, men also died. Men also died. But on the battlefield and building roads and bridges, building a steel factory, men died. But concrete, there are different types of concrete. This concrete is made with steel bars, which is embedded in it and is called reinforced concrete. Reinforcement allows for less concrete to be used because the steel carries all the tension. Also, the concrete protects the steel from corrosion and fire. Cool! Okay. So reinforcement concrete, wow! So the concrete goes on top. Of course, then, because steel is so good with tension, compression, it takes all that weight, but then the concrete protects the steel from rusting. That is so genius. Okay, that is so genius. I'm impressed. Like suspension bridges, steel cantilever bridges generally carry heavy loads over water, so their construction begins with the sinking of caissons and the erection of towers and anchorages. For steel cantilever bridges, the steel frame is built out from the towers toward the center and the abutments. When a shorter central span is required, it is usually floated out and raised into place. The deck is added last. Cantilever bridges. Cantilever is honestly going to be my favorite one just because it sounds like a fun one to say. Just like a fun word, cantilever. Steel and iron, what we primarily used, or the role that iron plays when it came into being. Steel, stone, wood. Steel is the one that we like to use the most today. It is the most efficient, the strongest, the best. The Romans used stone, and they've withstood time. Wow, it's just amazing. But stones are very difficult to work with, and quarrying that is, well, it costs a lot, and the lives of a lot of men. Wood, most cheaply utilized, easy to find, easy to do, but we only use them in small bridges because, again, very short time, so they don't have to withstand as much of the forces, of the elements, pressure, all that stuff, corrosion and tension and cars going across it. Wood, because they make these bridges so small, they don't have to withstand as much, so they can do the job of like smaller areas rather than worrying about trying to cover a body of water. For steel, it is longer spans. For longer spans, steel beams are made in the form of plate girders. A plate girder is an I-beam consisting of separate top and bottom flanks, welded or bolted to a vertical web. While beams for short spans are usually a constant depth, beams for longer spans are often haunched. That is, deeper at the supports and shallow at the midspan. Haunching stiffens the beam at the supports, thereby reducing the bending at midspan. Huh. That's so cool. So the ones on the edges, they sink in more, and they're put in more like you know, harder or deeper. And the ones in the middle are shallow. So when you're going across it, you can think of you don't have a moving bridge, or you having a crazy bend of these bridges happening, which is like scary. So it reduces the bending and the midpoint. Huh. Is it because it's higher? Like if it's higher, it has more room to sink slowly as time goes by? Again, I'm playing around here. I'm thinking of different ideas. Alrighty. Huh. Wood, steel. We just have a bit of like the arch over here. Suspension bridge, it looks like over here, I want to say, but I think I'm wrong. We are learning together. I'm not an expert. This one just looks cool. It's a cool bridge. It just looks chill. And of course, I had to give you some different views, some aerial views, some, you know, close up views of these cool bridges. Wow. The Romans made it easy. They make it look easy. Again, when these things work well, you don't think about it. You don't think of how hard and how long these men had to work to get these things to work. Concrete, reinforced concrete, pre-stressed concrete. I know. So concrete over here, we're just pouring it. And concrete is just a mixture of, you know, water and different types of, I don't know, stone, you could say, or mud, or we're going to get more into it, with just different mixtures. It's kind of like an artificial stone is the way that they put it. It's artificial, meaning that like we bind everything together rather than it just occurring naturally and us cutting it away. Reinforced concrete, we have the steel over here, just like we had said. That the concrete's going to go on top, the steel's going to take all the tension, and then the concrete is going to protect the steel from rusting, for example. Pre-stressed concrete is an important variation of reinforced concrete. A typical process called post-tension pre-stressing involves casting concrete beams with longitudinal holes for steel tendons, cables, or bars. So this is the pre-stressed concrete here. The holes are already made, so then they can just put these things through and get about their day. It's faster, it's quicker, less time, less energy, it's lighter. So for all these reasons, pre-stressed concrete is a good use. I think for this one we've kind of hit at the edge. But I think there's some research on concrete and what it was made of. Concrete. Steel bars embedded in it is called reinforced concrete. Huh. Well, let me do some quick research. Stick with me for a minute. But let's see what else I'm doing. I'm gonna hang out here for a minute, just chillaxing and playing around here. Honestly, shoot me a chat, talk about something, let me know. And I'll just be chatting, so I'd love to talk with you guys. Put something in the chat box and we'll continue the conversation, of course. But I'm gonna be here for a minute, just talking and researching concrete real quick. And we can get more done in here. But anybody else surprised about the so many different types of concrete? Like what? That shocked me. I expected different types of bridges, but different types of concrete? Really? That shocked me. Britannia. And my sources, I've been using Britannia. It's a very good source, one of my good ones right now. I'm glad I'm not an engineer and am responsible for all these lives and math. Oh my goodness. I must give engineers credit. I think engineers are unsung heroes, and engineers do such a good job of sliding under the radar. We don't even give them their just dues. I I admire engineers and I'm grateful for what they do, as well as architects, because architects have to plan all this, they have to design and make sure that everything, is properly taken care of, and math has to be correct. This is why we need children who are good at math. I'm not that kid, okay? I'm the kid who preserves our history. I will read all the books for you. That's my strength. But I know there are children who are great at math and they love it. And I think we should challenge them. We should make it fun. We should pay them money to do math. Oh my gosh, you guys. Fun thing. How about if we paid children to do math? Anybody else with me on that? Oh my goodness. If we paid American kids to do math, do you think they'd do their homework? Do you think? No way. Oh my gosh, I'm having too much fun over here. And you guys, this is live. Okay? This is live thoughts over here. I am thinking we need to pay children to go to school. Like, pay them money to go to school. I wonder how children's grades in America would improve if we paid them to go to school. Anybody else like weirdly like curious and wants to know more about that? Like, oh my goodness. No way. No way. Huh. I'm just chillaxing, so send me some things if you like to, but if you don't want to, that's totally chill. We're just chillaxing and sitting around. But I I'm kind of shocked. Why haven't anybody thought about this before? If we paid American kids to go to school based on their grades, like we paid them based on their grades, I think it could work. I really do. I think it could work. I think all of a sudden American children would have the best grades in the world. They'd be like, I can't go out today. I have things to do. I have to go and okay, I'm talking to myself over here. So I'm listening to myself, but I'm typing in here. But I don't know. I don't know what would happen if we paid American kids to go to school. I think it'd be interesting. Parents pay or taxes. Ooh, all society would benefit. Parents pay or taxes. Okay, because like the parents would technically be getting all their money back then. Because if okay, yeah, if we paid kids or if the children got paid based on their grades, parents could get back all their money. So I suppose would rich parents become even richer and then poor kids would become even poorer? Oh, the dilemma. The dilemma. There is never solving this dilemma. But parents would pay taxes or all society would benefit. Parents would pay or would taxes pay? I think taxes are already paying for schools. Taxes are already paying for schools. Taxes are already paying for like so many other things. And honestly, our money is being stolen really for so many other things. I don't know, but I know some children who would study. Like my siblings would have definitely, honestly, they probably would have tried to cheat. Maybe that would create a cheating problem. Never mind. This is why we think of these ideas, okay? This is why we think of them. Because these thoughts will really be what's getting this going. But Britannica. That's my bad. Britannica. That's the one I enjoy using. Let's see. What is... But I like this one. I really do. Concrete. In construction, structural material consisting of hard, chemically inert, particular substances known as aggregate. Sand and gravel are usually the things that are used. And among ancient Assyrians and Babylonians, the bonding substance most often used was clay. Yeah, clay is water, you know, repellent. It is impervious to water. So it's much easier to get that done and get it out of the way. But that all these things that are coming through my mind, like bridges. When I first thought about this, I'm like, bridges. How do we do that? Legit. How do we get all this water underneath? And how do we make concrete actually dry up? Cullen, I'm gonna chillax here for a minute. You don't have to stay if you don't want to. I'm just playing around and doing some different things. So I thank you for being here always, as usual. But I'm gonna stay on here, but no need to feel to stay. I just am trying something new. I'm doing a different take and seeing what happens. But also, I need to do some more research in, like, live streaming process. Yeah, I think we hit all the scenes. I'm gonna play this video though because it just looks fun. Really just looks fun. Those are really pretty pictures of what the Romans built. Roman baths. I have no clue what that said. Sounded like a combination of, like, I want to say like Middle Eastern language or something. But of course that makes sense given that they're like near this era. Oh, that's really pretty. I want to be there, riding in the sea in the Mediterranean, gazing upon these wonderful gardens. Wow. These people, again, the people who are creating this art, who are creating these movies, I have to give them credit. This is beautifully done. This is so much effort. Wow. And of course, that's the scene when they are done. When they are done, like, killing everything. And, fighting, taking over the world, such as Romans did. Let's see. I'm gonna type something in here. I'm I'm playing around with my chat box. Um, do 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 do. Let's see. Well, there are some things that I do need to do. But I'm not sure. But I am not sure. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how to do it all. I think today, let's see. Today, this is kind of like a small experiment I wanted to try, and I've kind of tried it. But I'm gonna stick here and keep playing around and seeing something. And I'm just gonna continue talking. Okay? I'm just chillaxing and getting this thing to work over here because there's a certain method I want to try. But today, again, we talked about the Romans, bridges and men. So again, if you are here, you're chillaxing, just send over a message. Let me see what we are doing over here. La da 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 da. Okay, I'm closing one particular window. I'm opening another window. Honestly, I'm just kind of working right now. I mean, I am working, but like now I'm just kind of like doing research and working. But I need to see if this works. I need to see if this works. You guys, I'm looking into Streamlabs right now. That is what I'm using. And I do not know. I do not know what Streamlabs is doing. I legit have no clue what this app is doing at any given time. I thought I had put on these new sources, you guys, but it doesn't look like I did. I thought I put on my cloud bot, but my cloud bot is not even working. Not even working. I wonder how Asmongold does it. I really do. Like, how does he do it? Like, how do all of these live stream people do it? That is just amazing. Whoa. Okay. Yeah, but I think for live streaming, these guys stay on. Some guys or gals, mostly guys, they stay on for 8 hours. Okay? These people stay on for 8 hours, and I'm impressed. I really am. But you know what though? I need to do some research for Asmongold, so come along with me. Legit, come along with me while I do some research of Asmongold and how he makes things work. I know, it's so weird, but I'm I'm throwing everything. I'm throwing like the Kardashians. I'm throwing everything I have at this, okay? Because we have no other alternative. We have no other alternative, and I need to see how this dude does it. Is he even live today? He's so weird. Asmongold TV, the official channel. Wow. Lame Asmongold. So lame. I'm kidding. The man is pretty good at what he does. He has 3.85 million subscribers. Okay, so he plays games. That's what he does. And then okay, wow. Okay. So he covers everything. He covers a little bit of everything. Okay. I see. This is I'm studying people and I'm seeing like what they do. I thought he did live streams, but I suppose he's only on Twitch. It looks like he's only on Twitch, and I'm just like, so he posts videos on here, but the streaming he does on Twitch. Okay. He's so funny. I remember reading a whole thing on him. Not reading. I remember watching one of his videos, and he was talking about how like he hadn't showered for a whole month. Okay, this man went a whole month without showering. I was impressed. I'm like, if I go like a couple days, but I'm a girl, which is slightly different, but still like, man, this dude like. He's like, I didn't shower for a whole month. And then my girlfriend broke up with me because I didn't shower. That's just funny. But I wanted to see Asmongold, but I got to see Asmongold. And now I'm kind of going in a deeper rabbit hole. I'm going into a deeper rabbit hole. Because, you guys, I've been thinking about getting Twitch. That's another thing I'm thinking about. Getting Twitch. And I've looked into multi-streaming, but I don't know if I can do that. I really don't. It's just... Oh. Okay, yeah. So I'm already. Oh no, Twitch. Okay, Twitch just automatically begins. It just automatically begins talking. But Twitch looks messed up. Twitch legit looks messed up. Okay. I don't even know. I don't even know. So now I have no clue. But there are different things happening on Twitch, which like Twitch is slightly different, but it makes me think about what is Twitch doing? How does this even work? But I had made a Twitch account because I really was curious about streaming. Although it was very it was streaming was one of those things that like I wanted to do it, but because of the way that it was coming about and because of where I was at the time, Twitch was just difficult to make happen because being consistent and always having a platform that you know is going to be ready to go and is going to be, up to par, always being able to live stream, that was very difficult for me to do because I wasn't sure. I really wasn't sure how it was going to be happening. I legit didn't know. Okay, so wow. There's a whole thing. Okay, so it's primarily gamers on Twitch. So even though they do different things, they also game. Or this dude is one of my favorite dude. Well, he's only the only guy that I watched on there, to be honest. I don't. But this makes me curious. This makes me want to try Twitch. I've always wanted to try Twitch, but I wasn't sure about live streaming yet, though. That's the one thing that I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I can just live stream. But there are a couple people live streaming on here. Wow. I don't know. I'm conflicted. I'm conflicted as to what to do. Because I know that YouTube is where people post things. Ugh. These algorithms, you guys. These algorithms, there's a lot to figure out. Legit a lot to figure out. Let's see. What else am I doing over here? I'm going to hang out here until 8:30 just to say I did it, okay? That's the goal. Just to say I did it. Because I made some edits, but I don't think they were added on correctly. I don't think they were. I really don't think they were. And I am uncertain. Your girl has got to do more research, you guys. I have to do some more research. Some more to get into. No, I really don't want to do that. But Streamlabs over here, what I'm just doing is I'm trying to figure out something with my bots, my chat bots, just like they sound. They're robots, and they kind of serve a purpose in like doing what I tell them to do, and jump-starting the chat in a way. That's really kind of their purpose for what I'm trying to do for this one. But honestly, I don't know. I don't know if I could get this one done. It's craziness. Oh, wow. That's interesting. Okay. How did I... Okay, sub-goal. Alright. Sub-goal. Platform. Layout. Custom. So much to learn. Let's see. What else is there, though? What else did we think about? I don't know. I'm thinking of games, and But I really wanted to get to Chatbox to work today. What is happening with this Chatbox? So as time goes on, my hope is to like expand and put in more time as we get better. So as we get more people in, we will spend more time, you know, chit chatting and talking about all these cool subjects and getting them to go. But it looks like for over here, we are not getting these alerts exactly how I wanted to. But Cloudbot over here is what I had touched today a little bit. And I don't think any of my stuff worked on. Did it? Let's see if any of these make a difference. Honestly, yeah, I'm just playing around to see what's happening over here. What is happening? I'm pretty sure this level is putting it on, but oh, choose your protection level. Medium. What's minimum? Okay, so it's up here. So minimum, medium, maximum. What's the difference? So if I do this one, these all, and again, all these things are so weird to use. Like, I honestly, I have to like come in here and like play around with it in order to like get this to do what I needed it to do. I don't know why. I don't know why. I don't know why. That didn't pick up. Let's see what else. But again, if I'm working on some new things. Primarily, we cover a lot of like interesting information, in my opinion, interesting information about the world, and how everything works. But your girl is just chatting and sitting over here because there are well, there are some changes that I need to make, some improvements that I need to make. So for here, I wanted to just see if I can get some changes done while I talk to you guys. And I don't know. I don't know if that's gonna work. 8 ball. Let's see what happens with it. So exclamation point, 8 ball. See what happens. Wait, did anything happen? What? Okay. I think I have to set up something though for it to go along with it. Okay. Smart. Exclamation 8 ball exclamation point 8 ball, and the question is, what is the question? What should I put? How smart is Shalinda? Let's see if that works. How smart is Shalinda? Does anything happen? Huh. Let's see if I have to set it up though. I would say no Kipo. Oh my gosh, Streamlabs. Wow, Streamlabs is harsh on me. No Kipo? That makes no sense. I would say no, Kipo. The answer is within yourself. Wow. Okay, okay. Let's see what happens if we add. Not sure. I would say no. I would say no. Confirm. And. Okay, so. Huh. Hmm. I don't know. I would say no, Kipo. That makes no sense. Streamlabs, that legit makes no sense. Gambling. All these little tools are so interesting to use. And they are a different language. Add commands, modules, some more stuff to work on. Queue, loyalty points. I need to figure out my loyalty points. Wow. Okay. So I see. I see what's happening over here. Depending on how much time you spend on here. So how do I... Again, we have polls, we have betting, we have a lot of things going on over here. I don't know. I don't know what's going on over here. Welcome to the chat box. I wanted to do that, but I don't know. I don't know how that works. But you guys, I've been doing my research to see which platform is the best for streaming right now. And I do not know. I do not know. I feel like, you know, YouTube makes sense because it re-ups and then you can put everything up there. But I'm a lost. Like I don't even know. But this is the uncomfortableness of learning. This is the uncomfortableness of starting something new. We are, you know, always interested in getting to know more about these things, and we are always like trying to figure out how the world works and how our daily lives work. And taking these chances, trying something new, going off the beaten path, I can understand why so few people do it. It is the most uncomfortable thing I've ever done. In terms of like the uncertainty, the difference of what you're hoping for versus what actually happens. Or, you know, you have some goals in mind and you know how easy you think in your mind. Oh, yes, this should be easy. Yeah. Except it's not. It's not. And I recall like learning and getting understanding that like think about how much effort you need to put into anything. Think about how much work you need to put into anything in life. And you, if you're starting new and you're a person who wants to go out in the world and make it your own, or like try to like get out there and do it, multiply however difficult you think it's going to be, multiply it by 10. Apparently you just multiply it by 10. And I get that. I seriously do get that now. I understood it. I understood what these men were saying, or some of my favorite, you know, creators and some of my favorite YouTubers. I understood what they were saying, but I was not into the whole thing of like, yeah, I get you. But now that I know, there's a difference between understanding and living it. Now that I've lived it, or I'm living it currently, wow. I mean, I would still do it. I really would still do it. Like, to me, as difficult as this is my heart. Like, I would do it. I would do it all over again. Even if like I knew exactly how hard it's going to be, I would still do it all over again. And I guess that's the craziness in me. And maybe, though, the only difference I would have done, like, had I known about everything, is I would not have gone to college. College is a waste of energy, money, and time, in my opinion. And I, honest to God, wish I had known, because then I wouldn't have gone to college. Like, But, you know, if I had gone to college, I probably would have never ended here. I probably would have never ended here. So I don't know. Who is to say? Who is to say what would have happened had I not gone to college? Maybe I wouldn't be here. But I filibustered. I filled the energy and filled the air. I will see you guys tomorrow. It's been fun. It's been chill. Au revoir. À demain. And I'll talk to you.